Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, depending on where on the world you are. Thank you for being here. I am Monica Camarena. I work at Weather Impact, which is a climate consultancy company based in the Netherlands, and that provides climate services to smallholder farmers in Africa, in different countries, as well as capacity building at different levels from smallholder farmers to Met offices and other national bodies. Today I want to tell you about the chatbot that we are developing and also some thoughts on co-creation and what our process is being like. Okay. So this is how traditionally we have delivered our agro-weather advisory services. It is in the form of an SMS. For example, this is the case of a project that we have in Tanzania. And in October last year, farmers received an SMS, in this case in Swahili. We always work with local languages as much as possible. That was telling them that the rainy season was starting soon, so that they should prepare their land. So on the right, there is a photo of them preparing their land. Now SMS have different challenges, and our newer product is an agro-weather advisory chatbot that is called Uliza-WI Impact. Some of the advantages compared to standard SMS is that the information is available 24/7. So with an SMS, you have the information coming into your phone whenever it is sent, but with a chatbot, you can access it at any time and request the information yourself. It can also include other kinds of multimedia messages, so not only text, but also voice messages, photos, and videos. Because it is not limited to the content of an SMS, it also can have a bigger number of advisories and also more explained than just in an SMS. And it allows two-way communication. So this is not only information being sent to the farmer, but the farmer can also request information and give feedback. So the chatbot that we are developing has multiple features. One of them, and actually the one that is being the most accessed by farmers, is weather information. So that is the daily forecast, as well as seasonal forecast, and also weather alerts, and the rain season status, focusing on the onset. The livestock module is to give advice for farmers that have livestock. So it has cattle, sheep, and poultry. And the information about different stressors, such as heat and cold stress. And also it has information of whether there is a nearby fire. The features that I have mentioned so far have already been developed. And what I am going to mention now, some of them have, some of them we are still developing it. So it also has farming advice that is coupling agro-weather advisory model with weather information. This is farmer and crop specific, so tailored to the location of the farmer and also to the planting date and the farming practices of each individual farmer. And it has advisories for different kinds of crops and different farming practices. Lastly, it also has other kind of information, such as conservation agriculture practices, crop suitability maps, adaptation information, so climate adaptation information, and also other push notifications. And it has already been translated into Shona in Zimbabwe. So that is the only one that we have already translated it into, but we are working on translating it into at least the country. Here I'm going to show some screenshots of what each one of the advisories looks like. This is on the left, the weather information advisories, the 5-day forecast. So it tells farmers about rainfall, rainfall chance and temperature. And also the seasonal forecast is on the right. The seasonal forecast tells mostly about rainfall in the coming season, so in the coming months. And this information is intended to be used by the farmers to guide their daily activities for the 5-day forecast. So for example, if it is going to rain heavily, you better don't use fertilizer because it's going to be washed away. Or for the coming season, if it is if the coming months is going to rain less, then the farmer can maybe choose to use a different variety that is crop resistant. Sorry, drought resistant. It also has farming advice for different crops and farming activities. So for example, here on the left, you can see here the farmer would have already selected maize for the field that they have already registered with the location, and then they can get information on weeding, fertilizing, planting, harvesting, and irrigation. And the colors that you see is for the coming days, with the crop calendar coupled with weather information, whether it is suitable or not to do certain activity. On the right, there is conservation agriculture that gives farmers access to information about different practices. So this is also this is also an example of how different information can be made available to the farmers. For the livestock advice, the same. You can select your location, what livestock you have, and a certain activity, and then the calendar will tell you whether it is sorry, in this case, not activity, in this case, stressor. So for example, heat stress and cold stress. And the chatbot will tell you whether it is expected to have heat stress or cold stress in the coming days. And lastly, we also have news for farmer that can be a dissemination option for government and others. So in this case, this is, for example, a message coming from the Met Office, I believe, for Zimbabwe. And future features, as I mentioned, is that we are translating it into multiple languages. Well, so that is about the chatbot. In this session, actually, I want to focus mainly on how is the process of creating the chatbot and of co-creating the chatbot with smallholder farmers in the SAFE4ALL countries. So if you have more questions about the technicalities of the chatbot, you can ask them later, or I'm always available to get in touch. But for now, I want to move on to co-creation of climate services. Starting with why co-create climate services. This is an illustration that I like that shows it very well, I believe. So there inside the box is, for example, my colleagues and I in the office without actually being in touch with the real world that is outside. We have everything very simplified. We believe that an innovation is going to work. And then actually someone goes out to the real world with different languages, different cultural practices, different realities, and so on. And then we realize that it is actually way more complex than that. So that is why co-creation is important, because it is engaging with that real world outside the box and trying to consider those realities into the development of a product. Okay, so first I have a question. You can reply on the chat, please. Okay. Thank you, Fitze. So there you have the poll. And the first question is, what is co-creation to you? Educating people about decisions, consulting them on decisions, designing solutions with them, or giving them full power to produce outcomes together. Okay, thank you for your answers. So I see that most of you define co-creation as designing solutions with other stakeholders. Well, So I want you to have that in mind. And actually, I don't have the answer. This is something that we are still working on. And that I think we need discussions with all stakeholders to see what exactly we want to do when we talk about co-creation of climate services. For now, I'm going to move on. Okay. Another poll. When do you think that farmers should be involved in developing climate services that are meant for them? So the first answer is after the service is designed to test or give feedback, then during development to refine content and tools, during planning to help define priorities and approaches, or from the very beginning, co-identifying the problem and building together. Okay, so I see that most people have replied from the very beginning, co-identifying the problem and building together. I must say that I agree, although that is quite challenging. But yes, I agree. As soon as possible, I think it's always the best to create solutions that are sustainable and practical and useful. Okay, so well, how we are trying to do it, or how we are doing it in our process of developing the chatbot. By the way, for those that are wondering, the chatbot is operational already in the 3 countries. However, it is still being improved, meaning that you can already use it, but the version that we will find now, it's different than the version that will be there at the end of this project, which is in 2.5 years. In our case, first I want to present to you the user test and co-creation that we have been doing. The goal of these campaigns on the ground is to test and co-create with end users to make climate services that make sense, so that they are relevant, sustainable, and useful. So far, we have user groups in the 3 countries: Zimbabwe, that started in 2024, Kenya, that started in late 2024, and Ghana, that started this year. The first test phase is testing the user interface and service interpretability. We have had in-person workshops and also with our local partners and WhatsApp groups. And if our partners are among the attendees, thank you very much for your on-the-ground support. On the right, you see the Zimbabwe Farmers Union, together with smallholder farmers last year in Zimbabwe when they started using the chatbot. And also then the WhatsApp groups that we have for the testing. We also went to the field, my colleagues and I. So this is, for example, earlier this year in Ghana, we had workshops to train on the use of the chatbot and also to co-design the chatbot. So asking farmers if they understood how the information was presented, and also and also how or if not, how they were choosing, or how they would choose to have it rather. Sorry, I see that there are questions in the chat. If it is okay, I will answer all the questions at the end of the talk, because otherwise it is a bit difficult to follow both at the same time. So let me continue and then we will answer. This is in in Zimbabwe. On the left, chatbot training and usability test with Agritex. That is the government organization that works with the state, or that has the extension officers. And on the right is with the smallholder farmers, part of who have been already testing the chatbot since last year, so they already have some experience in it, and also some extension officers in the Marondera district in Zimbabwe. This was last month. 2 of my colleagues were there. So what came out of there? Out of the sessions in Ghana was that we redesigned the weather forecast. On the left is the old format or version of the weather forecast. That was the 7-day weather forecast, including millimeters, degrees, and so on. But in the workshops in Ghana, we realized that most farmers, at least smallholder farmers, didn't or weren't familiar with the millimeters and also with the degrees Celsius. So actually, they said that they would prefer a different kind of design. And at the end, we came up with a different design together that we implemented. We were very happy about it, thinking that it would actually help farmers understand the information that we were delivering. But unfortunately, it did not go as planned. When we introduced the new version of the forecast, the farmers from Ghana told us that they thought that it was more complex than the previous one and that they did not understand it very well, that they were more familiar now with the previous one. However, you can see part of how they got used to it and they started interpreting the information in their own way, because one of the farmers, for example, said that he would just delete the millimeters, ignore the millimeters, and only looking at the numbers. Yeah, so, well, then we were a bit disappointed, to be honest. And we wondered what had happened. Did they get used to the old version? I think that it would have been different if we had been actually asking them for every decision that we made to change the format and taking them along the way, instead of the months that went through to deliver the new version of the chatbot. Some lessons learned from the use so far is that there are technical challenges. Even farmers that have smartphones sometimes had smartphones with operating systems that have very little memory, or where, for example, Google Maps is not available, and so the location is not available, and so we cannot use the chatbot. So even in farmers with smartphones, there were still challenges. And also Telegram is a very challenging platform to start using. At the moment, the chatbot is on Telegram. We are considering moving it to WhatsApp. It has its own challenges, but indeed Telegram, we have realized it's a challenging platform. Also accessibility challenges of the chatbot. So now we have this product that we have developed, but it is not always easy to understand for farmers. So even when we try to make it easier and to see with them how they would understand this information, training is needed, not only on the chatbot use, but also, for example, on the weather forecast. If we send information on the weather forecast to farmers that actually are not familiar with weather forecast, for example, rainfall probability and so on, then this information cannot be used. Also, through the extension officers in Zimbabwe, we have seen that the extension officers are a good in-between step to get to farmers, but then we lose the farmer-specific advice. So at the end, if the target is smallholder farmers, we need to think of what information is really needed and in what way. I didn't see, sorry, I saw one comment coming through in the chat before that was about the content or the amount of content in the chatbot and whether farmers actually use it, because it might be too much. And that goes actually straight into this point that I think that there is a balance between the complexity in chatbot functionalities, so everything that we can develop, and then actually if the real target are smallholder farmers, then will they use all of this information, or will it be more practical to reduce this information to less functionalities that are actually better understood by the smallholder farmers? So as I mentioned, it is a process that we are still in the process. I don't have the but at least I have some points to consider and some lessons learned that I hope can help other people developing climate services. And then lessons on co-creation particularly. We are seeing that co-creation is necessary, but difficult. It needs to be properly budgeted for in a project and also very well planned for. It needs invested and continuous engagement. Once off, as in holding some workshops in the country, is really not enough. Even having WhatsApp groups is also not enough if we are not there. unless we had a dedicated team that were really only focusing on this or focusing more on this. But then, yeah, well, it is very challenging. I think that building relations through continuous engagement is necessary so that actually we have a relation with the farmers that are in our test group. And also in all of this, working with local partners is essential so that we can have consistent presence, so that we understand better the cultural context, and also they can understand the local languages so that they can talk better to the smallholder farmers without the hurdle of English, for example. In all of this, the term co-creation is a term that we use a lot in climate services. I see it continuously coming through on LinkedIn, in conferences, and so on. Co-creation of climate services, but what is really co-creation of climate services? And is it really what we are doing, or what are we missing? So on the left, we have the participation ladder of the New Economic Foundation, that it talks about participation stages of different stakeholders, from coursing to producing, going from bottom up. Coursing and educating is doing to people. So coursing is people are forced to comply with decisions made without them, and educating people are told what's best, but there is little room for feedback. Then doing for people, from informing to consulting and engaging. Informing, people are giving information but not asked for input. So for example, for the chatbot, farmers are told a chatbot is being developed but not asked for input. Consulting, farmers would be surveyed about needs but have no role in design decisions. And engaging, farmers share input during development, but key decisions stay with developers. I want to think that we are somewhere on the top, that is doing with people. So one is co-designing, in which people help shape ideas, plans, or solutions together. And then, for example, for the chatbot, it would be farmers help shape the chatbot's design, language, and interaction style. And co-producing, people share power and responsibility to deliver outcomes together. So there is a shared power and responsibility. And for example, for the chatbot, it would be farmers are full partners throughout the design, testing, and ongoing improvements of the chatbot. I think that at the moment we are, although it is up for discussion, I think that at the moment we are in co-designing. I think that co-producing is challenging, but it would be good to see how we can really get there. And about co-creation, I am not sure whether it is in co-producing or co-design. There was also another message coming before in the chat that I saw, that was whether co-creation is the same as co-producing. I think that co-creation is somewhere between co-producing and co-design, and when I have been looking into it, it is not clear whether it is co-design or really co-producing needs to be there for it to be co-creation, but I would say it's somewhere there. With all of this information, I want to have a poll that is, what level of participation do you think should be our target in the creation of climate services? Okay, well, I see that from the respondents that have replied so far, they say co-design mostly, followed by co-producing. So at least we are on the top of the ladder, and then some are in the lower steps also. In the chat, I see that Sarah feels it is more than one answer. Yes, indeed. I think that all of this is up for discussion, and depending on the service and on the particular case, it might be one thing or another. However, I think that at least the top part, co-designing and co-producing, is really important to really make services that people understand and that they are useful to people. For example, one reality check that we had with the chatbot is that what I mentioned before, we are making all of these functionalities, but actually, if they are not understood, then, well, they are a bit pointless. So we really need to consider the smallholder farmers from the beginning to see what services or how can we design services that will be helpful for them. Okay, so with that, I am finished with the presentation. The question to the debate or food of thought is, what would true co-production look like for the chatbot? When we are considering that is this also with the smallholder farmers really being part as true or as full partners of the of the development. With this, I am done. This is the QR code for the chatbot. As I mentioned, please take into consideration that it is still under development. And if you have questions, you can ask me.